Hello and welcome back. In today's video, I am going to be making a black velvet overcoat. Now, what is an overcoat? Is it not just a jacket? No, it is not. An overcoat is much like, think a trench coat. It is meant to go over dresses. Winter is coming and I do not have an overcoat, so therefore I shall make one. Now, I have been thinking, what is the best way to go about this? I do not have a pattern. I have never made an overcoat. I've only ever made one outer layer, a blazer. It was okay. It didn't turn out the best. Here is a picture of the blazer that I made. No, I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm doing for this video. Now, I think that it has been at least 2 or 3 months, I don't know, since I have made my Mina's mint green leaf embroidered recreation dress from Bram Stoker's Dracula. The longest title ever for a dress, but that's what I made. And I had a couple of issues with it where I wanted to redo the thing, really. And I really felt that for the bodice type that I made, it is a really good outer layer. Now, I did make this in the Victorian style, and if you know anything about historical fashion, it's all about the layers. So underneath the main bodice for that dress are 3 layers. So really it does kind of act like an overcoat. So I was thinking, I need to do a little bit of tweaking on this pattern anyway, because I would really like to actually fix the dress in a way to where I will be able to wear it where it's not held up with double-sided sticky tape. So I'm going to work on fixing that dress, but I need to fix the pattern. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to take the original pattern that I made for making my Mina's long title dress, and I'm going to tweak it. I remember because I watched the video back a few days ago, and I saw in areas that I was talking about that I really needed to fix and adjust. So I made a whole new pattern. I did that. I fixed the issues. I made the front longer, wider. I extended the front panel pattern piece where the buttons would go, so it's going to actually overlap this time. To ensure that I got it right, I made a mock-up. I just used what I had left of a random bed sheet. So here is my mock-up. It is a single layer. The finished piece won't be, but let's just go with it as it is. The collar, it does exactly what it needs to do. It comes all the way to the front. I did make the pattern piece, and I realized that my microphone is here, so I did make the front piece long enough to where it would fold over if there were buttons, and I made sure to make sure that that there's about 3 inches of extra space here in the front. I did that because I want to make sure that there's enough. I want it to overlap and button, but also I need to have enough seam allowance because it's going to have an outer layer and a lining layer where it's going to tuck in about 1/4 inch. So I needed space for that and for the buttons and buttonholes. I do believe that I accomplished that. On the underarm, I did fix that. It's not up as high. It's not as tight. I added a little bit of extra seam allowance to the back. And well, how about I just show you? Okay, I'm working with limited space here, and I have a prime lens on my camera, so no zooming and no pulling out. This is what the mock-up looks like. I'll put my microphone down for just a moment. So I adjusted the overall length. I fixed that. This is going to be an overcoat, so I wanted to have the length here. It is going to close in the front. The collar is right. I will be able to bring it up and buckle it in place. I did leave extra seam allowance for the collar and for the top, so I know I'm going to have to bring this in, but I would rather have too much fabric to work with than not enough, as of, last time, what I did last time. I didn't have enough. Now, this is the bodice portion. I said overcoat, yes? So for the bottom, what I'm thinking, overcoat specifically for dresses. I realize I'm rambling here. I'm just trying to get my point across, and I did not prepare anything to say. So here's my rambling. I want to have a circle skirt, basically, attached to the bottom, where it's going to be like moving around, and it's to cover the length of where my dresses go. For the sleeves, there are no sleeves attached to this. I did have to hand draft a sleeve pattern. When I say hand draft, basically I took the sleeve pattern that I used for my Mina's long title dress and I just adjusted it. And what I did was I made the part that attaches to the underarm, I guess it's called the arm's eye. I made that part, I extended that out probably about 2.5 inches to give extra space for movement because whenever in my dress moving my arms up and down and like if I were gonna hulk out, it was too tight. So I fixed that issue. I also made it a little bulbous on the top. So I want to have like, it's going to attach and then be a little poofy just right at the top. And then it's going to be form-fitting on the arm with a nice cuff that, well, I didn't even put a cuff on the last one. I want a wide cuff that folds on itself, if that makes sense. You know, I guess I could have just been like, here's what I'm going to make, a drawing, and then put it up on the screen. But as of yet, I have not made a drawing. I'm sure by the time I edit this video, and I have to also create the pattern and do digital animation. So this is what I'm making. That was a whole lot of rambling, and I did not mean to make the intro this long. But this is pretty much where I'm going to be doing all of my talking. Well, for the most part, now that all of my yapping is done and over with, it is time for me to move upstairs, put out my fabric and my pattern pieces, and get to cutting everything out. Here we go. Now the fabric that I'm going to use is this beautiful black velvet that I have used multiple times to make multiple different things. I'm pretty much going to use up the last bit of it today. For the lining, I'm going to be using this purple satin feeling bed sheet. I am using up scraps today. First things first, I'm going to place my black velvet on the table, put my pattern pieces on, and cut it all out. Now that the outer layer fabrics are cut out, I am going to do the exact same thing on the lining layer. Now starting with the bodice, yes, it does look a little weird. Instead of having darts in it, I went ahead and cut out the darts so it just kind of looks like a weird shape. I don't even know what to call this, but as doing my research for historical garments, whenever you're trying to fit something so exactly to your body with no extra bagginess, you're going to have very large darts, especially in a piece like this. So if you imagine these cutout pieces here as if they were darts in the bodice, if you don't understand what this is, hopefully now you do. So I'm going to pin and sew those pieces together as if they were darts, and you'll see what it'll look like in just a few moments. Once everything is pinned together, I sew it together, and then repeat those steps with the lining layer. All right, the bodice for the overcoat is sewn together as far as the outer layer fabric and the lining layer fabric go. Along the way, I tried to show you what the seams look like as I was sewing it together, and I realized that on the black, it's just too dark and there's no way that you're going to see it. So, and I did show a little of the purple one as well, but since it is a lighter color, I can actually show you what the seams look like. This is the front of the bodice. And this is the back. I realize it still is difficult to see. Now is the time where I am going to connect the lining to the outer layer. Okay, so lining, outer, this is the collar. Oh, okay, this is the collar. And in order to sandwich the collar in between the outer and the lining fabric, basically what I need to do is, and we're doing this right sides together. Anytime you connect anything, outer and liner, right sides together. Normally, if there wasn't going to be a collar on this, I would take right sides together, pin them together like so, and then sew around the top and the edges. But I'm not going to be doing that, one, because the bottom on a lot of these pattern pieces don't exactly line up. It's a little wonky in length, so I'm going to have to shorten it a little bit. So we can see here the pieces they line up on the edges like they should, but whenever it goes from the front to the back, it does this weird jagged thing, and I think that that was just mismeasurement for the pattern pieces. Totally my fault. And of course it is, I drafted the pattern. So what I need to do, and I'm going to try to explain this I'm going to try to explain this in an eloquent way. I did not realize I was out of frame. I'm going to pull you down to my ironing board where I'm going to lay it out. All right, outer layer fabric. Right sides together. Okay, right side to right side. Now what I need to do is take this collar and I need to pin it in between these layers, but it has to go inwards like this. So I take it here, pin it, and I'm going to sew this in place, and then whenever it flips over, it's sandwiched in between. So that is going to be a nice seam line. I feel like there's another word for seam line. My brain is not working. So I'm going to pin this together. I'm going to then take it to the sewing machine, and I am only going to sew it around the collar because I added extra fabric along the front of the bodice on the line, on both of them, because I wanted to make sure that there's going to be enough extra that I can do my buttons and buttonholes, because I want this to close with buttons. Now, I recorded the intro to this video yesterday. I don't know how it's going to translate in editing, but I will recap for my benefit. This is a recreation. No, this is me retrying my recreation for the Mina's long title mint green dress. This is my adjustment. I'm fixing it. I'm making sure that, I'm going to get my pattern right, because I want to be able to digitize that pattern. And a really cool thing that I have learned recently, and maybe it's just cool to me, you can take one pattern, adjust it a little bit, and it can become a different pattern. So that's kind of basically what this is. I wanted the overall concept and shape of the bodice that I made for that dress because I really did like it. And I think that the way that the bodice is made, all of the seams and the darts and just the overall concept of it would make a really great overcoat. It's still going to have that Victorian feel about it, which is what I was going for. It's the whole thing that I was going for this overcoat. I'm also not going to sew it up on the bottom because, like I just said, it's not exactly level in some places, and I'm going to be adding a skirt to this overcoat. I want to make sure that it's going to be, I need to see where the front is going to line up because I want it to be pointed in the front where it comes down from below where the skirt would begin, which is going to be a little higher, so it'll button and close in a V point. So that is why I left extra fabric here. Yes, I'm done talking. I'm going to pin. Here is the jacket, all sewn together, and I'm going to be completely honest with you here. It has been a little over a week since I got to this point and didn't finish it. And I want to explain why, because I am all about transparency, and since I am digitizing the pattern, not only do I want to make sure that it is completely correct, but if I'm having issues with my pattern, I want to let you know that if it is something that you are going to purchase and try. Now, since making this jacket, first I guess let me try it on and try to explain to you the issue that I was having. Since it is a velvet black and, you know, as dark as a void, it's going to be a little difficult to actually tell. Number one, I made it a little tight, again, around the shoulders, around the top. Why can't I get my words? Up here, it got a little tight. And I made two critical errors when making this. Once I had it all sewn together, I got ahead of myself and I made it long intentionally, and for whatever reason, without marking it, I took the bottom and I just cut it. I didn't even measure. I wasn't paying attention. I mean, I was paying it. I don't know what I was doing. Let's be completely honest here. So I messed up the bottom part. Okay, that's number one. It will close and button. The collar is tucked in right now. I cut the collar too short. I don't know how that happened, but I did. So along with the collar, let's call it the waistline. I don't know. I wasn't prepared to talk apparently. I cut that wrong and it's way too short in the back. Way shorter than I wanted it, probably by about 3 or 4 inches. And then finally, when I was trying to figure out how to make it looser at the top, I pulled the armhole down further and then I made the sleeves at the top wider, which the sleeve part was on the right track. I should have gone wide and higher with it. So I figured out how to fix that part. Going down on the arm's eye, the armhole eye, I think that's the arm's eye, going down further, like this is where the end of it is. And I should have brought it up. That would have fixed the tightness. Like this is as tight as I can. It's so tight in the back. Whenever I just have my arms like this, that's not right. And then the third, 1, 2, 3. So the fourth thing that I messed up on. Again, I think I was just trying to get it done and I wasn't like 100% in it. So the last thing that I did that was wrong, I thought that the sleeves were going to fit inside of the cuffs very nicely. Now the cuff it's a good width, I guess, so hang on, it's so dark. Here I have these elastic hooks, which we're going to hook into buttons that were going to be on the other side. So like that would have been fine. If I wanted for the waist, the sleeve cuff to cover over the buttons and have the buttons go through a buttonhole here, I should have made the sleeve cuffs wider. So I suppose this is fine, but the whole point was I wanted the bottom of the sleeve to fit into the cuff exactly, and it didn't. And I thought, well, I don't want to pleat it because I want it to be a straight line. I don't know why I was thinking that. What I did was I took the sleeve, and I think that I even put it on camera. I'm not 100% sure because it's been so long. And I cut the sleeve at the bottom and then tapered it up to the full sleeve width. And when I did that, I made it, I mean, I can barely put a finger in here. It is so tight against my forearms. This side is even tighter. So I have figured out everything that I did wrong. Absolutely everything. I adjusted my patterns. I spent the last week doing this. I completely adjusted the patterns. I started almost completely over from scratch. And then I made this. Now, yes, this is composed of 3 different fabrics because I used the very last little bit of the fabric that I had for this. The last velvet, the last of the satin, and then I had to use what I had left. I was piecing pieces together here. Now this one, already, the fit, it goes on easier. It feels looser. I realize I don't have my sleeves in yet, but it just feels more roomy. It still comes to a point, but the length is more of what I wanted. But it is going to close like I want it to close. It feels much better. The collar is exactly as long as it needs to be. It will close and even button at the top and button here. So I am on the right path. This is the one that I am going to be going with. As far as the sleeves, here is my new sleeve. This is just one, obviously. I made two. Now I adjusted my sleeve pattern. I made it taller at the top and wider on the arm's eye or the inseam or whatever it is called. So this should make the sleeve fit much better. It's not going to be as tight. And this time, instead of cutting the sleeve up like I did with that one, I pleated it. And I'm going to put a little clip in here right now of me pleating the sleeve into the cuff and doing it properly. Now the sleeve goes on much better. The pleat does not look bad. You cannot see that on camera. I don't know why I thought that would look bad. What I had to keep reminding myself of was this is going to be a coat. So it needs to be a little big because obviously I'm going to have long sleeves clothes on. I mean, this is supposed to be a winter jacket. So I had to make it like a winter jacket and not so much like a bodice for a three-piece dress. I made the sleeve cuff wider, so if I wanted, I could put buttons in and it'll end up be closing tight. But what I did was the same thing. I used the elastic thingies here, sewed them into the cuff, and then I'm going to have buttons on this side of the cuff, and then they'll just button closed, and I'll have a little bit of room to move here. So now that I have everything figured out, I'm going to sew my sleeves on. I do believe that this time this is right. And when that is done, I am going to add on my lower skirt. And then after adding on the skirt, I just have to put in buttons and buttonholes and she's done. You know, I really don't know how this video is going to turn out being. It has taken twice as long as I expected. I had to completely remake the entire thing, piecing pieces of fabric together just to make it happen. So I think once I have this done, what I'm going to have to do is make it again with different fabric. I want to ensure that the patterns that I am putting out there for to sell and for people to buy and make is that they are correct. I realize it's a whole thing for me to make the patterns from scratch, but just for anyone to make patterns from scratch, it is a big deal and it is really, really hard. Probably not for people that have been doing it for years and years and years, but since I've only been creating my own patterns now for, I don't know, 6 months, it's still really difficult. And jackets, I've never made jackets. I made one blazer and that didn't even turn out that great. This is a whole new thing for me and it's really, really very difficult. But with all that being said, I'm going to sew on these sleeves and then move on to the skirt. The coat is now done, and it looks like the deep dark void, and I'm digging it. Now it is far too hot right now to be wearing this. Velvet is warm, very warm. Now it did take me a few months to get this pattern perfect and exact to the point to where I can digitize it. And I can't stand the heat anymore. I have to say that I think it is perfect. The only thing missing would be pockets, and that would be because I ran out of fabric. In the pattern, in the link down below in the description, there's going to be a pocket included in the pattern. This was my first attempt. I do have to say that the lining turned out better on account of it was the first try and, all the fabric matches. I am a little bummed that it didn't quite turn out, but I want to say that's what you get for not making a mock-up, but I did make a mock-up. This is my mock-up, but I didn't add sleeves. Add sleeves to your mock-ups, I guess. Now, real quick, I do want to put a little disclaimer. I'm sorry, I have to take my earrings out. Oh, they're irritating my ears. Now, as a disclaimer, as we know, nobody's body is exactly the same. Everybody has different measurements and different sizes. So keep that in mind if you did purchase or are going to purchase this pattern. I made this to fit my body specifically. The measurements will be in the detail in the description of the pattern, and it is easy enough to be able to adjust it to your size. Which I feel like if you are making your own clothing and you're purchasing patterns, you already know this. I would not say that this is a beginner pattern. This is probably an intermediate sewist pattern. Possibly, this was hard. I'm not going to lie with you. But half of the fun of making your own clothing is messing up. Yes, that was a little sarcastic. I really don't know how interesting this video is going to be. I have been recording it for well over 2 weeks now. I haven't checked back on any of the footage, and I am having a very frustratingly bad day. Well, I have nothing else to say. I now have an overcoat dress. Dress overcoat. It's one of those. I now have one. Winter is still too far away. Yes, it is the middle of September, and it does not get cold here in South Carolina until February. If you made it all the way to the end, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you liked today's video, please give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below, and if you're not already, consider subscribing. These things do help out my channel, help it to grow. I am still a very, very, very small content creator. And though I don't feel the need or have to make patterns and make clothing and do things and post it on YouTube. And honestly, most days I don't even want to. But I do have quite a few goals that I would like to reach within the next 2, 5, 7, and 10 years. And growing this channel to a point where it is monetized is one of those goals. So come back and hang out with me on Wednesdays as I make something new every week. But I'm done yapping. Like I said, I'm having a bad day, so I'm going to change my clothes, get some ice cream, and go watch Voyager. Or Sleepy Hollow. That is if Paramount has put it back on yet. They took it off a few months ago. That's all I got. I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.